The rain hammered down on the roof like an angry drum, echoing through the large house that had once been filled with laughter and the scent of Maria's cooking. Now, the air was heavy with tension. The living room lights cast long shadows across the walls, where framed photos of family vacations still hung, frozen moments of happiness that no longer existed. Maria stood in the doorway, her trembling hands clutching an old brown suitcase. Her thin shawl was draped over her shoulders, soaked from the water leaking through the cracked ceiling. Across from her, Daniel, her eldest son, leaned against the banister, his jaw tight and eyes filled with cold authority. "Mom," he said, his voice low but cutting, "we can't keep doing this. You're behind on bills, and we're trying to move forward. Dad's will gave the house to us, not to you." Maria blinked, as if she hadn't heard him right. "To you, Daniel, this house is where you were born. I built every corner of it with your father. You think I don't have a right to stay?" Emily, her daughter, sighed loudly from the couch. Her perfectly styled hair and expensive clothes made her look more like a guest than family. "Mom, stop being dramatic. You had your time. We just want to make changes. You could rent a small apartment somewhere, maybe closer to town." Maria stared at her daughter, the girl she had once held through fevers and nightmares. "An apartment? I can barely afford groceries since your father passed. You know that." Emily avoided her gaze. Daniel looked away, pretending to check his phone. The silence was louder than thunder. "Please," Maria whispered, her voice cracking. "Don't do this. Not like this." Daniel's face hardened. "We've made our decision. You have until morning." The words hit her like a blow to the chest. She felt her breath catch, her knees weak beneath her. "Daniel, Emily, I am your mother." Emily stood and walked toward the door, unwilling to meet her mother's pleading eyes. "We'll send your things later," she said softly, but there was no warmth in her tone. The door opened, and the cold wind rushed in, carrying the scent of wet earth and loss. Maria turned one last time, her eyes sweeping over the house, the family portraits, the worn furniture, the piano she used to play lullabies on. Everything seemed smaller now, emptier, lifeless. She stepped outside. The door slammed behind her with a final, echoing thud. The rain instantly soaked her clothes, plastering her gray hair to her face. She stood there for a moment, suitcase in hand, as the water pooled around her feet. A flash of lightning illuminated the house, her home, and she whispered a quiet prayer under her breath. Then she began to walk, one step after another, down the dark, rain-slick street. With every step, the past faded behind her, and the unknown loomed ahead. Her tears mixed with the rain, but in the storm's roar, no one could tell the difference. Maria wandered through the rain-soaked streets, her shoes squelching with every step. The town seemed emptier than she remembered, the sidewalks slick and reflective, mirroring the gray sky above. She hugged her shawl tighter around her shoulders, but it offered little warmth against the relentless downpour. Every street lamp she passed flickered, casting brief, wavering shadows on her path, as if the world itself were uncertain about her presence. Eventually, she stumbled upon a small church on the outskirts of town. Its wooden doors were worn but sturdy, the faint glow of lanterns inside promising refuge. Hesitation clutched her chest. She wasn't used to asking for help, but exhaustion and cold left her no choice. She pushed the door open and was immediately greeted by the rich scent of burning candles mixed with the faint aroma of old wood and incense. A kind-faced priest emerged from behind the altar, his robe damp from the rain he must have been tending outside. "My child, come in," he said gently, holding out a hand. "You're soaked. Sit by the fire, I'll bring you something warm." Maria nodded silently, too drained to speak. She sank into a wooden chair near the hearth, feeling the first hint of relief as warmth began to seep into her chilled bones. Father Thomas returned with a steaming cup of tea, placing it carefully on the table before her. "Drink slowly," he advised. "You've been through a storm, not just outside." She lifted the cup with trembling hands and sipped. The warmth spread through her chest, unblocking the tears she had been holding back. Memories of the children she had raised, the laughter that once echoed through her house, and the betrayal that had thrown her into this storm all swirled together. Over the next few days, Maria returned to the church, helping wherever she could. She washed dishes in the kitchen, served meals to the homeless, and tended to small repairs around the building. The townspeople, initially wary of the quiet woman who had appeared in the rain, gradually grew to love her gentle nature. Children began to follow her around, seeking stories and comfort, and she found herself laughing again, the sound blending with the church bells. Maria began to realize something she hadn't understood before, that life, even when stripped to its simplest form, could still be full of purpose. She no longer counted the walls of her old house or mourned the betrayal of her children. Instead, she counted the smiles she could bring, the meals she could serve, and the hope she could ignite in those who had none. And while Daniel and Emily enjoyed their newfound freedom in the house they had claimed, Maria discovered that even after being cast out into a storm, a heart open to kindness could create a new world, brighter than any home she had ever known. Her days at the church became a rhythm of giving and healing, and slowly, the town began whispering her name, not as a woman cast aside, but as a beacon of hope. Mama Maria, they called her, and in their voices, she finally heard acceptance, respect, and love again. Daniel and Emily threw themselves into their new life with a sense of triumph. The house, once filled with Maria's warmth, now gleamed under fresh paint and polished floors. They hosted dinner parties, invited friends, and flaunted their perceived freedom. But beneath the surface, cracks began to appear. Daniel's business, which had once seemed secure, started to falter. Contracts fell through, clients delayed payments, and employees grew restless. Each setback seemed minor at first, but the failures accumulated like raindrops forming a flood. Meanwhile, Emily's relationship with her fiancé, built more on appearances than love, began to crumble under pressure. Arguments erupted over finances, career ambitions, and the stress of maintaining the luxurious image they had fought so hard to uphold. At night, the house felt different. The lights flickered in unexplained patterns, and the pipes groaned as if echoing a warning. Objects seemed to move on their own, a chair slightly shifted here, a picture frame tilted there. Daniel, practical and skeptical, brushed off these occurrences as coincidences, but a growing unease gnawed at him. One particularly stormy evening, as thunder rolled across the sky, Daniel worked late in the home office. Papers were scattered across his desk, rain lashed against the windows, and the shadows cast by the flickering candlelight danced ominously. A sudden knock at the door startled him. He opened it, expecting a delivery or perhaps one of his employees returning something forgotten. But the hallway was empty. Daniel frowned, stepping out into the dim corridor. That's when he noticed it, a single rosary lying neatly on the step outside his front door. His chest tightened. That was his mother's rosary, the one she used to pray with every night when he was a child. A cold chill ran down his spine. He picked it up, feeling the familiar smooth beads in his hand, and a wave of guilt and fear washed over him. He had thrown the woman who had raised him into the storm, yet somehow, in her absence, her presence still lingered. Emily, hearing the commotion, rushed to his side. Her eyes widened when she saw the rosary. "Daniel, it's her," she whispered, voice trembling. She's still watching over us." Neither of them slept that night. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil within them. For the first time, they felt the weight of what they had done, the betrayal they had committed against their own mother. And deep down, both knew that the consequences of their actions were only beginning to unfold. The house, once a symbol of their victory, now felt like a cage, a reminder that they had underestimated the strength of the woman they had cast aside. Months passed, and Maria's life at the church had become a steady rhythm of purpose and connection. She woke each morning to the soft light filtering through the stained glass windows, the scent of incense and fresh bread filling the air. Children ran to her as soon as they arrived, eager for stories, lessons, or simply the comfort of her smile. The poor and homeless she helped began to call her by name, bringing small gifts of gratitude, a knitted scarf, a loaf of bread, or flowers picked from nearby fields. She discovered a strength she hadn't realized she possessed. The pain of rejection slowly transformed into resilience, and the sense of betrayal faded, replaced by a deep compassion. Maria's reputation as a healer and caregiver spread beyond the church walls. People from neighboring towns began to arrive seeking her guidance, her comforting presence, or simply to share in the warmth she radiated. One afternoon, as she sorted through donated clothes in the small attic of the church, a sleek black car pulled up in the gravel lot outside. Maria glanced through the window and saw two familiar figures stepping out. Her heart skipped a beat, recognition mixing with caution. Daniel and Emily, pale and disheveled compared to the polished children who had cast her out months ago, approached slowly. They looked different, humbled, broken by the failures of their once glittering lives. Daniel's expensive suit was wrinkled, his confident posture replaced by hesitation. Emily's carefully styled hair hung in damp, uneven strands, and the pride she had once carried so openly was replaced by uncertainty. "Mom," Emily's voice cracked as she took a hesitant step forward. Tears brimmed in her eyes. We lost everything. The house, the business, we didn't know where else to go." Maria studied them silently. Her chest ached, memories of the stormy night when they had thrown her out flooding back, but she didn't let anger control her. Instead, she felt a strange serenity, a quiet knowing that the universe had given her a chance to rise above the pain. She stepped forward, her arms open. "You still have a mother," she said softly. "And I still have love." Daniel and Emily hesitated for a moment, guilt and shame heavy in their hearts, before finally moving into her embrace. The townspeople, who had gathered outside, watched in awe as the woman who had once been cast into the rain welcomed the children who had betrayed her. The rain, once a symbol of her suffering, now fell gently around them, washing away the bitterness of the past. In that moment, forgiveness replaced resentment, and a new chapter began, one defined not by wealth or pride, but by love, compassion, and the unshakable bonds of family. Maria knew that life would not be perfect, and that scars from the past would remain, but she also knew that love, her love, was stronger than any storm, stronger than any betrayal, and capable of transforming even the most broken hearts. Weeks turned into months, and Maria's story began to ripple beyond the small town, touching hearts far and wide. A local journalist, moved by the tale of the mother who had been cast out by her own children yet chose forgiveness, wrote an article titled, "The Mother Who Forgave." It quickly went viral, shared across social media and news outlets. Donations and offers of support poured in, allowing Maria to expand the church's humble community center into a fully functioning foundation. Daniel and Emily, humbled by their failures, joined her efforts. They cleaned, served meals, and organized programs for families in need. The work was difficult and often exhausting, but it offered them a lesson that wealth and status could never teach: the value of compassion, humility, and genuine connection. Slowly, they began to rebuild not only their lives but their relationship with Maria, learning to respect and cherish her in ways they had never done before. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Maria stepped outside the foundation's newly built playground. Children's laughter rang through the air as they ran and played, their joy spilling into the streets. Father Thomas joined her quietly, watching the scene with admiration. "You turned your pain into grace," he said softly. Maria smiled, her eyes following a group of children chasing after a ball. "Rain doesn't destroy," she said, her voice calm and certain. "It washes away what no longer belongs. Sometimes, even hearts need a storm to be clean again." Daniel approached her, now no longer the arrogant man who had thrown her out but a son who had truly learned the weight of love and forgiveness. "Mom, I don't think we can ever fully repay you," he admitted, his voice tinged with emotion. Maria shook her head, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Love doesn't keep score, Daniel. It heals, it teaches, and it grows. That's all I ever wanted for you." Emily stepped forward, tears glistening in her eyes. "We were so blind, Mom. But now, I understand. We understand." The three of them stood together in the fading light, the laughter of the children surrounding them like a gentle blessing. The past storms, the betrayal, the heartache, they were still a part of their story, but they no longer defined it. Maria had transformed tragedy into hope, betrayal into forgiveness, and loss into purpose. Her life had become a testament to resilience, love, and the extraordinary power of the human heart. And as the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the horizon, she knew that, no matter what storms might come, her heart, and her family, would always find a way to shine again.